Hey, for exposing my family's scheme before they could pin it on me at my parents' anniversary? I'm Lucy, 32, and for most of my adult life, being the responsible daughter in my family meant answering calls I already knew would end with me opening my banking app. My parents, Helen and Warren, called it helping the family. My younger brother Ryan called it bad timing. My older sister Kara called me dramatic whenever I asked why every emergency seemed to have Ryan's name attached to it. I used to keep receipts in a shoebox under my bed because throwing them away felt irresponsible, but looking at them felt petty. I told myself families don't keep score. Now I wish I had started sooner. My parents' anniversary dinner was in their dining room, though dining room was a generous term once the folding chairs were opened and pushed against every available wall. Old family photos covered the mantel. Grocery store flowers sat in a glass pitcher because Helen said the vase she wanted was too formal. A sheet cake waited on the kitchen counter under a clear plastic lid, its frosting roses already sagging from the warmth. The whole setup looked casual, but nothing about my mother's events was casual. Every chair placement, every framed photo, every bottle of wine had been arranged to project the image of a close family that still gathered around one table. Helen met me at the door wearing the pearl earrings Warren had given her years earlier. She hugged me with both arms, held me a second longer than necessary, then lowered her voice. "Just one night without tension, please," she whispered. "Your father deserves that." I pulled back. I wasn't planning on causing any. Her smile returned before she turned toward the living room. "That's my girl." I had heard that phrase all my life. It never meant affection. It meant I had agreed to be convenient. Warren was pouring wine near the mantel. He nodded when he saw me, then glanced at the clock as if checking whether I had arrived late enough to mention later. I was 6 minutes early. Ryan was stretched out on the couch with one ankle over his knee, laughing at something Aunt Denise had said. At 29, he still had the talent of looking like a college kid home for a long weekend. He wore a clean button-down, freshly trimmed hair, and the relaxed expression of someone who had never stayed awake calculating which bill could wait. Kara stood near the kitchen doorway with her phone in one hand and a wineglass in the other. She was 36 and had spent most of her life treating family conflict like a television show that became boring when people behaved well. She looked me up and down. "You came," she said. "It was on the invitation." "I know. I just wasn't sure if you were still doing the whole boundaries thing." "I am." She smiled into her wine. "Good luck with that." I should have paid more attention to the way she watched me after that. Dinner started with polite conversation. Aunt Denise asked if I had been sleeping enough. My cousin Jenna talked about a kitchen renovation that had gone over budget. Warren carved the roast with the slow concentration he used whenever he wanted to appear above the noise around him. Ryan told everyone he was back on track. He didn't explain what track he had been off or what had put him back on it. No one asked. Helen reached over and squeezed his shoulder. "He's been working so hard," she said. Ryan gave a modest shrug. "Just trying to get things handled." "That's all anyone can do," Aunt Denise said kindly. I looked down at my plate. 3 months earlier, Ryan had called me at 11:40 at night asking for $1,800 because his car was supposedly about to be repossessed. When I asked how he had missed enough payments for that to happen, he told me I was making a hard moment worse. I didn't send the money. The next morning, Helen called crying because Ryan needed transportation to rebuild his life. Warren texted me later that day, "Help your mother sleep tonight." I still didn't send it. That refusal had apparently become the latest evidence that I was cold. Halfway through dinner, Jenna asked if I had been visiting my parents often. "I was here 2 weeks ago," I said. Helen dabbed the corner of her mouth with a napkin. "For 45 minutes. I dropped off your prescriptions and fixed the billing issue on your phone plan." I wasn't criticizing. She said it with the wounded softness that meant she absolutely was. Warren set down his fork. "People get busy," he said. "Sometimes they forget what really matters." The room quieted by half a degree. No one looked directly at me, but several people stopped eating. "I remember more than you think," I said. Warren held my eyes for a moment, then returned to his plate. Ryan kept chewing. That was the family pattern in miniature. Ryan received encouragement for vague improvement. I received a moral review for any boundary. After dinner, Helen asked everyone to keep their glasses because she wanted to make a toast. She stood beside Warren's chair and placed one hand on his shoulder. At our age, she began, you understand that a marriage isn't built on grand gestures. It's built on sacrifice. Quiet sacrifice. The kind you make when nobody thanks you. People nodded. Aunt Denise smiled. Helen's voice trembled exactly where she wanted it to. We raised 3 children, and we did everything we could to give them a good life. You don't expect repayment. Of course you don't. But you do hope they remember where they came from. You learn which children remember love, and which ones only remember money. The room changed. Jenna looked at her glass. Denise pressed her lips together. Kara's mouth twitched like she was trying not to smile. Ryan stared at the cake. No one said my name. They didn't need to. Helen wiped beneath one eye, though I couldn't see any tears. Warren raised his glass. A family survives when everyone carries what they owe, he said. Success can make people forget who fed them before they could feed themselves. His gaze landed on me and stayed there. For years, that would have been the moment I defended myself. I would have listed every bill I had covered, every errand I had run, every emergency I had solved. Then Helen would have cried harder. Ryan would have accused me of keeping score, and Warren would have told me not to upset my mother. My explanations had never cleared my name. They only gave my family more details to reshape. So I said nothing. I lifted my glass, took one small sip, and let the silence sit where they had placed it. Helen looked almost disappointed. Dessert was served 15 minutes later. People began moving between the dining room and kitchen, carrying plates and coffee cups. I was rinsing a fork when Kara appeared beside me. She waited until Helen walked out with the cake knife. Then she slid a worn manila envelope against my side. It had creases along the corners and a dark coffee stain near the flap. My name was written across the front in Warren's blocky handwriting. What is this? I asked. Kara's expression was bright with the kind of interest she usually reserved for other people's embarrassment. You might want to see what they decided without you. What does that mean? She took a sip of wine. Don't worry. You're still the favorite solution. Before I could stop her, she stepped around me and joined Jenna near the cake. I put the envelope inside my purse. For the next 10 minutes, I stood in my parents' kitchen while Helen laughed too loudly and Warren posed for pictures. My pulse beat against the strap on my shoulder. Kara kept glancing at me, waiting. She wanted me to open it there. She wanted a scene. I refused to give her one. I carried my purse outside and sat in my car with the doors locked. Through the front window, I could see relatives moving beneath the warm dining room lights. Someone had started cutting the cake into uneven squares. The envelope made a dry tearing sound when I opened it. The first page was a bank letter addressed to my parents. My name appeared in the second paragraph as a responsible party contact. I read the phrase 3 times. The next page was a printed email from Helen to Warren. If this blows up, we say Lucy said she'd cover it and changed her mind. Denise already thinks she's been distant. It will make sense. Warren's reply was printed beneath it. Don't put that in writing again. My hands went cold. There were transfer receipts, a payment confirmation, and screenshots of text messages between Ryan and Helen. Helen. She asked too many questions last time. Ryan. Just tell her it's for you. Helen. She may say no. Ryan, Mom will cry. She always pays when guilt is involved. Another message followed. Ryan. Don't mention the lender. Say it's a family bill. I kept turning pages. One transfer receipt showed a payment of $2,400 from me to my mother 6 months earlier. The note read, Mom, help. Helen had told me the money was needed to keep the house stable, after an insurance problem. I had imagined a mortgage issue, a medical bill, maybe an overdue property charge. She had cried so hard on the phone that I could barely understand her. The payment confirmation stapled behind it showed that the money had gone toward an account connected to Ryan's debt. There was also a draft statement typed but unsigned. Lucy offered to take responsibility for helping Ryan resolve the balance, then withdrew unexpectedly. We relied on her commitment and were left in a difficult position. I had never made that commitment. I had never seen the document. My name appeared 4 times. The money hurt. The planning hurt worse. This was not a desperate decision made in the middle of a crisis. My parents had built a backup story in advance. If Ryan's debt became public, I would be blamed for failing to solve it. If I paid, they would call it family. If I refused, they would call it betrayal. Either way, Ryan stayed protected. I sat in the car until the overhead light shut off automatically. My first impulse was to walk back inside, spread every page across the dining room table, and ask my mother to read her own email out loud. Instead, I photographed each page with my phone. Then I returned to the house. Helen was setting candles into the sheet cake. "There you are," she said. "We were wondering if you left." "I'm leaving now." Her eyebrows rose. "Before dessert?" "I have an early morning." "You always have a reason." I picked up my coat. Ryan leaned against the kitchen counter with a paper plate in his hand. "What, are you mad now?" he asked. I looked at him. "Not yet," I said. "I'm reading." His face changed for less than a second. That was enough. Kara watched from the other side of the room, smiling into her glass. I drove home without turning on the radio. The shoebox was still under my bed. I had not opened it in almost a year. Dust had gathered along the lid. Inside were printed bank confirmations, old receipts, notes I had scribbled during phone calls, and a stack of cards my mother had sent after I helped with something expensive. "Thank you for always being our strong one. We don't know what we would do without you. Family takes care of family." I carried the box to my kitchen table and started sorting. At first, I thought I was only looking for the $2,400 transfer. Then I found another payment from the previous year. $850 sent through Venmo with the note family bill. Helen had told me Warren needed help with an urgent dental charge. A bank statement in the envelope showed an $850 payment toward Ryan's account 2 days later. I found a Zelle transfer for $1,200. The note said utilities. Helen had told me the power company had made a mistake and threatened shutoff. The date matched another partial debt payment. I went through old text messages. Some had been deleted, but enough remained. "Helen, please don't tell Aunt Denise. She worries and makes things bigger than they are. Warren, your mother is embarrassed to ask. Don't make this harder. Ryan, appreciate you helping Mom out. She's been stressed." At the time, I had read that last message as concern for her. Now it sounded like confirmation that he knew exactly where the money was going. I remembered a cookout 2 summers earlier. Ryan had raised a beer and joked that I was basically family insurance. Everyone laughed. I laughed too because refusing to laugh would have made me difficult. The memory landed differently now. Around 1 in the morning, I created a spreadsheet. I listed the date of every request I could document. Who contacted me, what they claimed the money was for, how much I sent, where the evidence suggested it actually went, who appeared to know. The list grew past one screen. I had paid for real things too. A plumbing repair, a medical copay, groceries when Warren was recovering from surgery. Not every request had been a lie. That made the manipulation more effective. Truth and deception had been mixed together until questioning one meant appearing to doubt all of them. At 2:17 a.m., I found a screenshot I had saved from a family Facebook post 18 months earlier. Helen had written about how painful it was when a child promises to stand by the family, then turns away when the family needs her most. Jenna had commented, "Some people forget who was there for them." Kara had reacted with a heart. I had never responded because Helen didn't name me. I told myself answering would make me look guilty. My silence had been treated as confirmation. By 3 in the morning, I was no longer crying. I was scanning documents. The next day, Helen called before 9. I let it go to voicemail. "Lucy, honey, I don't know what happened last night, but you left in such a strange way. Your father noticed. Everyone noticed. I worked very hard to make that dinner special, and it felt like you wanted to punish us. Please don't drag Denise into whatever mood you're in. She wouldn't understand. And family doesn't survive when private things become public." I saved the voicemail before it could auto-delete. Warren texted 10 minutes later. "Don't make your mother look bad over a misunderstanding." I replied with one sentence. "Please explain the misunderstanding in writing." He didn't answer. Ryan messaged around noon. "You still upset?" I stared at the screen then typed, What did Mom tell you the $2,400 was for? The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, and appeared again. Finally he sent. No clue what you're talking about. I took a screenshot. Kara called that evening. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to know where the envelope had come from. Did you enjoy your present? She asked. Where did you get it? That's your first question? It's the only one you need to answer. She sighed, as if I were spoiling the fun. Dad had a box of old papers in the garage. I was looking for the insurance records from that fender bender I had last year. The envelope was under a folder with Ryan's name on it. How long have you had it? A few weeks. And you waited until their anniversary dinner? I thought you deserved to know. No. You thought you deserved to watch me find out. Silence. Then she said, You always think you're the only person they've treated badly. I didn't say that. You don't have to. You walk around acting like the family martyr. You handed me evidence that they used my money and planned to blame me for Ryan's debt. I didn't create the envelope, Lucy. No. You just saved it for the most entertaining moment. Her voice hardened. At least I gave it to you. That is the lowest possible standard for decency. I ended the call. For the next 3 days I didn't confront my parents. I gathered records. I requested full transaction histories from my bank. I downloaded Zelle and Venmo confirmations. I checked my credit reports. That was when the situation shifted from humiliating to frightening. One report contained an inquiry I didn't recognize from nearly a year earlier. It didn't show an open account in my name, but the lender's name resembled the company on the bank letters in Kara's envelope. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and felt the room tilt. My parents had not simply lied about where my money went. Someone had connected my name to a debt process without my permission. I scheduled a consultation with an attorney. The office was quiet and undecorated except for a framed certificate near the door. I brought copies, not originals. The attorney read the bank letter twice, then asked me to explain exactly what I had agreed to. Nothing related to Ryan's debt, I said. I sent money to my mother because she told me it was for household expenses. I never agreed to guarantee anything, communicate with the lender, or be named as responsible for payment. Did you sign anything? No. Give anyone permission to sign for you? No. Share your social security number? My parents know it from old records. They've had access to tax documents in the past. The attorney leaned back. Stop discussing this by phone. Preserve every document and message. Dispute anything inaccurate on your credit report. Ask the lender in writing for all records tied to your name. Do not make informal promises, even to calm anyone down. What if my parents say it was a misunderstanding? Then they can explain the misunderstanding in writing. That sentence settled something in me. For years, my family had lived in the gap between what they said privately and what they could be forced to put on paper. Helen's tears worked because they disappeared when the call ended. Warren's careful phrases worked because he never admitted enough to quote. Ryan's emergencies stayed vague because details created accountability. Paper changed that. I left the consultation with a short list of practical steps. I sent a written request to the lender. I filed a dispute regarding the credit inquiry. I placed a fraud alert on my credit file. I moved the original envelope and my records into a locked document box. Then I waited. My family did not. Helen called twice a day. I didn't answer. Warren sent 3 increasingly formal messages. We should talk like adults. Your silence is escalating this. There are consequences to humiliating your mother. I replied only once. Please communicate in writing regarding any financial matter involving my name. Ryan sent a meme, then deleted it. 2 hours later he wrote, This is getting ridiculous. I didn't respond. On the 4th evening, Aunt Denise called. I stared at her name on the screen before answering. Hi, Aunt Denise. Lucy, I wanted to check on you. I'm fine. There was a pause. Your mother said you found some old papers and misunderstood them. What did she say I misunderstood? She didn't give details. She said you're under stress and turning a family favor into something ugly. Did she tell you my name was used in correspondence about Ryan's debt? Another pause. No. Did she tell you that money I sent for household bills was used to pay it? No. Did she tell you she wrote an email saying they would blame me if the debt became public? Denise inhaled sharply. She wrote that. Yes. Can you prove it? Yes. She was quiet long enough that I could hear a television in the background. I'm not saying I don't believe you, she said. But this is serious. I know. Your mother says you've become hard. My mother has been saying that since I stopped paying every time she cried. Denise didn't defend her. That was new. Send me what you're comfortable sending, she said. I'll look at it myself. I'm still organizing it. All right. Before hanging up, she added, Lucy, I did think you were being harsh with them. I'm telling you that because I don't want to pretend otherwise. I know you did. I should have asked you. Yes, I said. You should have. She accepted that without argument. I might have sent Denise the documents privately and stopped there. Part of me still wanted to protect my parents from public embarrassment, even after they had spent years making my supposed selfishness part of the family narrative. Then Helen posted on Facebook. The post began with a photo from the anniversary dinner. She and Warren stood behind the sheet cake, smiling under the dining room light. The caption was several paragraphs long. She wrote about gratitude, about the pain of aging parents who give everything and receive distance in return, about adult children who measure love in dollars and treat family obligations like contracts. She wrote that she would continue choosing grace, even when someone close chooses punishment. Again, she didn't use my name. Again, everyone knew. Jenna commented, you and Uncle Warren deserve better. Some people don't realize what they have until it's gone. Another relative wrote, stay strong. Truth always comes out. Kara reacted with a sad face. Ryan liked the post. I read it twice. Then I took screenshots. That was the moment I stopped treating their reputation as more important than mine. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't write an angry comment or post the envelope online. I opened a new document and began building a timeline. At the top I wrote, the part one was told to keep quiet about. For each event, I listed the date, the request, the amount, the stated purpose, the actual destination shown by records, and the supporting document. June 8th. Helen requested $2,400 to keep the house stable. Transfer sent. Payment record shows matching payment toward Ryan's account on June 9th. September 14th. Helen requested $850 for Warren's urgent dental expense. Transfer sent. Account record shows payment toward Ryan's debt on September 16th. January 3rd. Helen requested $1,200 for utilities. Transfer sent. Matching payment recorded on Ryan's account within 48 hours. I attached the email between Helen and Warren. I attached screenshots of Ryan's texts. I attached the draft statement claiming I had agreed to cover the debt. I attached Helen's voicemail telling me not to involve Denise. I attached Warren's message telling me not to make Helen look bad. I attached the public Facebook post and comments. I removed account numbers, addresses, and anything unrelated. I didn't include every cruel remark my family had ever made. I didn't speculate about motives. Accuracy was enough. The email itself was short. I'm not asking anyone to choose sides. But if I'm going to be judged, you should judge the truth instead of a performance. My parents have repeatedly told relatives that I abandoned the family after agreeing to help. I did not agree to cover Ryan's debt. Money I sent for stated household expenses was used toward that debt without my knowledge, and my parents prepared a written explanation blaming me if questions arose. My name also appears in debt-related correspondence I did not authorize. I am taking formal steps to protect myself. Please read the attached timeline before contacting me about being selfish or ungrateful. I sent it individually to the relatives who had commented, called, or repeated the story to me. Not a group email. Not a social media post. One by one. My finger hovered over the send button before the first message. Then I remembered Helen standing beside the cake, talking about children who counted pennies. I sent it. The first reply came from Jenna 23 minutes later. I need time to read this. The second came from Denise. I've opened everything. Do not delete the originals. Kara called 3 times. I ignored her. Ryan sent. What the hell is wrong with you? I took a screenshot and didn't respond. Warren's message arrived last. You have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. I typed you crossed it when you used my name. Then I deleted the draft. I didn't need another argument. The documents already spoke. For the next day my phone buzzed constantly. Some relatives said nothing more than, "I'm sorry." Others tried to soften their reactions with phrases like, "There are probably two sides." One uncle asked if I really needed to involve an attorney. I sent him the page showing my name on the bank correspondence and asked if he would ignore it if the name were his. He didn't answer. Jenna called that evening. "I owe you an apology," she said as soon as I picked up. Her voice sounded strained and embarrassed. "I believed what I heard because it was easier than asking you." "That's true. I commented on your mom's post. I saw it. I deleted it. That doesn't erase it." "I know." She paused. "I'm sorry, Lucy." It was awkward, incomplete, and sincere. I appreciated that more than a perfect speech. "Thank you," I said. 2 days later, Denise called again. "Your mother wants everyone at my place on Sunday," she said. "That sounds like an ambush." "She says she wants to clear the air." "What do you think she wants?" "I think she wants to cry before anyone asks a direct question." I almost laughed. That was the first time Denise had described my mother accurately without excusing her. "I don't have to come," I said. "No, you don't." "Will you be there?" "It's my house." "Will you let them turn it into another speech about my character?" "No." Her answer was immediate. I agreed to go. Before Sunday, I printed a clean copy of the timeline and placed the supporting documents in labeled folders. I brought copies, not originals. I emailed myself backups. I also carried the written request I had sent to the lender, and the certified mail receipt for a letter to my parents stating that they had no authorization to use my name, credit information, signature, or financial accounts for any purpose. I was not going there to win an argument. I was going there to end an arrangement. Denise's living room was smaller than my parents' dining room, which made the tension harder to avoid. The couch, 2 armchairs, and several dining chairs formed an uneven circle. No one had food. That alone made it feel serious. Helen and Warren arrived together. Helen wore a pale sweater and no makeup except mascara. She looked fragile in a way that had clearly required preparation. Ryan came 10 minutes later and dropped into a chair near the door. He crossed his arms and didn't greet me. Kara arrived last. "Nice folder," she said when she saw the binder on my lap. "Nice timing," I replied. She looked away. Jenna sat beside Denise. 2 other relatives had come after receiving my email, but they stayed near the back of the room. Helen waited until everyone was seated. Then she began to cry. Not loudly. Helen never started loudly. She pressed a tissue to her nose and spoke in a trembling voice. "I never imagined one of my children would try to destroy this family over money." No one moved to comfort her. That was the first sign that the room had changed. At my parents' anniversary dinner, Denise would have placed an arm around her. Jenna would have said something reassuring. Warren would have looked at me until I apologized. This time everyone stayed still. Warren cleaned his glasses with the edge of his shirt. "There are private matters that do not belong in front of everyone," he said. "Lucy knows better than this." "I knew better than to lie about you publicly," I said. "You didn't give me the same consideration." Helen shook her head. "I never lied about you. You told people I agreed to cover Ryan's debt and abandon the family. I said you had offered to help. I did not. You always said we could count on you. That is not authorization to attach my name to debt paperwork." Ryan leaned forward. "You always do this," he said. "You turn everything into proof that you're better than me." I looked at him. "This is not about whether I'm better than you. It's about whether I agreed to pay your debt. You act like I asked you personally. You told Mom to lie about what the money was for." His jaw tightened. "That text was a joke." "No, it wasn't. You don't know the context. I have the messages before and after it." Kara shifted in her chair. Helen turned toward Denise. "This is what I mean. She's presenting us like criminals. We were trying to protect Ryan during a hard time. Denise's expression did not change. Did you use Lucy's money to pay Ryan's debt after telling her it was for household bills? Helen looked at Warren. Warren put his glasses back on. The household was under pressure because of Ryan's situation. Money is fungible. It is not always possible to separate one family expense from another. I opened the binder. You separated them clearly when you asked me. You said utilities. You said dental work. You said keeping the house stable. You never said Ryan's debt. Because you had become judgmental about him, Helen said. No. Because you knew I would say no. Her face hardened for the first time. You have always resented your brother. I resented being lied to for him. You think because you're organized and careful, you get to look down on everyone who struggles. I think adults should know what they are paying for. Warren raised one hand. This tone is exactly why we didn't involve you in every detail. You involved my money and my name. The room went quiet. Ryan stood. This is pointless. He reached for the door. Warren surprised everyone by saying, "Sit down." Ryan turned. "Dad, sit down." It was not accountability. Not yet. It was Warren realizing that letting Ryan flee would look worse than making him stay. Ryan dropped back into the chair. His relaxed posture was gone. He bent forward with his elbows on his knees and stared at the floor. Aunt Denise looked at me. "Lucy, are the documents you sent us the same documents in that folder?" "Yes." "May I see them in order?" I handed her the first set. She reviewed the bank letter, then passed it to Jenna. I showed the transfer receipt and matching payment date. Then the email from Helen to Warren. If this blows up, we say Lucy said she'd cover it and changed her mind. Warren looked toward the window. I handed over the text screenshots. Just tell her it's for Mom. Mom will cry. She always pays when guilt is involved. Ryan's face went red. That was private, he said. I almost admired the instinct. He was looking at proof that he had helped manipulate me, and his complaint was that the proof had been seen. Private does not mean harmless, I said. I played Helen's voicemail from my phone. Please don't drag Denise into whatever mood you're in. She wouldn't understand, and family doesn't survive when private things become public. Then I showed the Facebook post. Helen pressed the tissue to her lips. That post did not name you. Neither did your anniversary speech. Everyone still understood. I was expressing pain. You were directing it. Denise held the printed email in one hand. She looked at Helen. I need you to answer one question, she said. Which part of this is fake? Helen blinked. What? The bank letter. The transfers. Your email. Ryan's texts. The voicemail. The post. Which part is fake? Helen looked around the room, searching for an ally. No one moved. The way she's presenting it is unfair, she said. That was not my question. We were under tremendous stress. Which document is fake? Helen's mouth opened, then closed. Warren stepped in. No one is claiming the documents are fabricated. It was the closest thing to an admission he had ever made. Denise turned to him. So you knew. I knew there were conversations about how to manage the situation. Did you know Lucy had never agreed to cover the debt? Warren rubbed the bridge of his nose. I understood that she had helped the family before. That isn't an answer, Jenna said quietly. Warren looked at her, startled. Jenna had spent years laughing nervously whenever conflict appeared. Now she held the printed email in both hands. You wrote, "Don't put that in writing again," she said. That sounds like you knew exactly what Helen was saying. Warren's respectable calm began to crack. You are all reducing a complicated family situation to a few sentences written under pressure. No, I said. I'm showing the few sentences that explain the entire pattern. Helen pointed at me. There. That. You always need to be the smartest person in the room. I needed to be the person in the room who read the paperwork. Ryan made a disgusted sound. You got your dramatic line. Are you happy now? No. That seemed to surprise him. I'm not here to make anyone hate you, I said. I'm here because all of you made them hate me first. I looked around the room. For years. Mom and Dad told people I was selfish whenever I asked where the money went. They implied I abandoned them after promising help I never promised. They used my silence as proof I was guilty. I stayed quiet because I thought protecting the family meant not embarrassing anyone. All that did was make their version the only version anyone heard. Helen shook her head rapidly. We never made anyone hate you. Jenna spoke before I could. You made me think she refused to help after agreeing to. Helen turned toward her. I said there had been an understanding. There wasn't, Jenna said. That is Lucy's interpretation. No, I said. An agreement requires my participation. Kara gave a short laugh. Honestly, this is why nobody tells Lucy anything. She turns it into a deposition. I faced her. You had the envelope for weeks. The room shifted toward Kara. She sat straighter. I gave it to you. At the anniversary dinner. I thought you deserved the truth. You handed it to me with a smirk after watching Mom and Dad humiliate me in front of everyone. Kara's eyes narrowed. That's not fair. You didn't hand me that envelope to save me. You handed it to me because you wanted to watch my face fall. She looked at Denise. I was going to tell her. When? Denise asked. Kara crossed her arms. I told her, didn't I? You knew enough to help sooner, I said. Instead, you waited for a show. Kara's face flushed. At least I didn't take her money. No, I said. You just enjoyed knowing they did. She stood so quickly that the chair legs scraped against the floor. I'm not sitting here while everyone makes me the villain. No one made you anything, Denise said. Sit down or leave. But stop pretending your timing was kind. Kara stared at her, then grabbed her purse and walked out. The front door slammed. For once no one chased her. Ryan shook his head. This family is insane. Denise turned to him. No, Ryan. Your sister did not create this debt. Explain your part. He looked at Warren, then Helen. Neither of them rescued him. I got behind, he said. On what? Denise asked. Payments. What kind of payments? Ryan rubbed both hands over his face. A personal loan. Some credit cards. A couple other things. How much? I don't know exactly. You know exactly, I said. He glared at me. Fine. It changed because of interest. How much? Denise repeated. About 28,000 at the worst point. Jenna stared at him. 28,000? Ryan's voice rose. I was trying to keep everything from collapsing. I had bills. I had stuff happen. So did Lucy, Denise said. Why was her money the solution? Because she had it. The answer came out before he could stop it. No one spoke. Ryan looked down. Helen rushed in. He doesn't mean it like that. Yes, he does, I said. That has always been the whole logic. I had money, so my consent became optional. Ryan stood again, but this time he didn't leave. You don't understand what it feels like to be drowning, while everyone compares you to your perfect sister. I was not the one making those comparisons. You didn't have to. Mom and Dad did it constantly. That landed harder than I expected. Helen looked offended. We encouraged you. You covered for me, Ryan said. That's not the same thing. For a moment, something honest appeared in his face. Not remorse exactly, more like exhaustion. Then he looked at me. But you didn't have to send this to everybody. You didn't have to let everybody believe I had promised to rescue you and walked away. I didn't start that. You knew. He said nothing. You knew they were lying about me, I continued. You knew Mom was asking me for money under false reasons. You joked that she only had to cry. You liked the post implying I was ungrateful. I was angry. So was I. I still checked the facts before I acted. He sat down again. Helen began crying harder. I made mistakes, she said. I was trying to protect my son. You have 3 children, Denise replied. I know that. Then why did protecting one require sacrificing another? Helen didn't answer. Warren placed both hands on his knees. This has gone far enough, he said. We can acknowledge that mistakes were made without dismantling the family. I closed the binder. I'm not asking for an acknowledgement. Warren frowned. Then what do you want? Written confirmation that I am not responsible for Ryan's debt. Full disclosure of every document or communication where my name was used. No more requests for money by phone. No signatures, guarantees, references, or account contacts using my information. If anything else appears on my credit report or any document is found with my name attached without permission, it goes through legal channels. Helen stared at me. You would threaten your own parents with a lawyer? I consulted one because my name appeared in debt correspondence I never authorized. We would never steal your identity. Then written confirmation should be easy. Warren's jaw tightened. You are treating us like strangers. No. I would never have let strangers do this much. I took a breath. There will also be no more financial help. Not for Ryan. Not through you. Not disguised as a family bill. If there is a real medical or household emergency, send the documentation in writing. I will decide whether to help. No answer means no. Crying does not change the answer. Public comments about my character will receive public corrections with evidence. Helen's face went pale. You're cutting us off. I'm ending automatic access. After everything we've done for you. That sentence is exactly why this is necessary. Warren looked toward Denise, apparently expecting her to moderate me. She did not. Instead, she asked, will you provide the written confirmation? He cleaned his glasses again even though they were already clean. We will review the situation. I reached into the binder and placed a copy of the certified letter on the coffee table. You already have the request. It was delivered yesterday. Helen looked at the receipt stapled to the front. You sent us certified mail? Yes. Her voice dropped to a whisper. How could you do that to us? I looked at the woman who had once taught me to write thank you notes, balance a checkbook, and keep important records in a fireproof box. She had taught me to be careful, then hated me for applying that care to her. You didn't raise a disappointment, I said. You raised someone who finally learned to read the paperwork. I stood. No one stopped me. The lender responded 11 days later. Their records showed that my parents had listed me as a potential family contact during a restructuring discussion. I had not been made legally responsible for the debt, and no account had been opened in my name. The credit inquiry appeared to have resulted from an attempt to verify whether I might qualify as a guarantor, but the process had not been completed. That was a relief, but not a small one. My parents had gone far enough to explore using me as a guarantor without asking. Through the attorney, I sent a formal notice disputing any authorization and requiring removal of my information. The lender confirmed in writing that I had no responsibility for Ryan's balance, and that my contact information had been removed. Warren sent the family confirmation 2 days after that. It was brief and stiff. Lucy did not sign guarantee or agree to assume Ryan's debt. Any prior statements suggesting otherwise were inaccurate. He didn't apologize. Helen didn't sign it, but her name was included at the bottom. For me, that was enough. Not emotionally. Practically. The family consequences unfolded slowly. Aunt Denise stopped repeating Helen's version of events. When another relative said I had gone too public, Denise asked if they had seen the Facebook post that came first. Most changed the subject. Jenna sent another message a week later. I know deleting my comment doesn't fix it. I'm trying to be more careful about believing family gossip. I replied that matters. Kara did not speak to me for 3 months. She told people I had twisted her attempt to help. Unfortunately for her, several relatives had been at the anniversary dinner and remembered the way she handed me the envelope. Her reputation did not collapse, but it changed. People became more cautious about what they told her. She had always enjoyed being the keeper of secrets. It turned out that role was less fun once everyone knew she might save a secret for maximum impact. Ryan had to negotiate his own debt. My parents could not cover it fully. Without me as the invisible backup, he entered a formal repayment plan, sold a vehicle he could not afford, and moved into a cheaper apartment. He complained to anyone who would listen that I had made a private mistake into a family crisis. The crisis had already been a family crisis. I had simply stopped being the hidden payment method. We spoke once about 5 months after the confrontation. He called from an unfamiliar number because I had muted his usual one. "I'm not asking for money," he said immediately. "Then what are you asking for?" "I don't know. I guess I wanted to say I'm handling it." "That's good." He exhaled. "You could sound less happy about it." I said it was good. "You know what I mean." "I do. You want praise for finally being responsible for your own debt. That's why talking to you is impossible." "No. Talking to me is different now because guilt no longer changes the outcome." He was quiet. Then he said, "Mom really did think she was protecting me." "I know. She wasn't trying to hurt you. Intent doesn't erase planning." Another silence. "I shouldn't have sent those texts," he said. It was not an apology, but it was the first time he had admitted the messages were his without calling them jokes. "You shouldn't have participated in the lie," I said. "Yeah." He ended the call soon after. I did not mistake discomfort for transformation. Ryan was still Ryan. He still framed consequences as things other people did to him, but he was paying his own bills, and my name was no longer part of his plan. Helen tried several ways to restore the old system. First, she sent a long email about forgiveness. It contained no acknowledgement of what she had done, only paragraphs about how bitterness damages families. I replied with a copy of the written boundaries. Then she mailed me a birthday card that said, "A mother's love survives even when a child pulls away." I did not respond. A month later, she called from Warren's phone and left a voicemail saying the water heater was making a strange sound. She didn't ask directly for money. She said, "I just thought you would want to know what we're dealing with." I texted Warren, "Please send the service estimate in writing if you are requesting help." No estimate came. The water heater was apparently fine. Warren became more distant. His preferred role had always been reasonable observer, the calm man standing near the emotional woman. The email exposed that distance as performance. He had not merely failed to stop Helen. He had warned her not to leave evidence. He never again told me not to upset my mother. That may have been the closest thing to growth I received from him. Some relatives stayed uncomfortable with what I did. One told Denise that family business should never leave the immediate household. Another said I had been right but too clinical. I stopped trying to persuade them. They were not the ones whose name had appeared in a lender's file. They were not the ones who had sent thousands of dollars for fake reasons. They had the luxury of preferring a softer correction because the lie had not cost them anything. I did not cut off my entire family. I did not move away, change my number, or demand that everyone choose me over my parents. I simply stopped participating in the version of the family that required me to be silent, useful, and blamed. I saw Denise occasionally. Jenna invited me to lunch and apologized again without turning the meal into a confession booth. I attended one holiday gathering and left after 2 hours. Helen remained polite. Warren discussed the weather. Ryan arrived late and brought store-bought cookies. No one asked me for money. The peace was not warm, but it was honest. About a year after the anniversary dinner, I cleaned out the shoebox under my bed. I kept the records that still mattered and shredded the rest. The thank you cards went into a separate pile. For a long time, I had treated them as proof that my family appreciated me. Reading them again, I noticed that most thanked me for being dependable, strong, available, generous, practical. Very few said they enjoyed me. That realization hurt, but it did not break me. Clarified what I had been buying. I had spent years paying for the hope that if I stayed useful enough, reasonable enough, and quiet enough, my family would eventually admit how much I had done. The admission never came. What came instead was better, my own certainty. I knew what I had given. I knew what they had hidden. I knew the difference between helping and being used. The last document I placed in the locked box was Warren's written confirmation. Lucy did not sign, guarantee, or agree to assume Ryan's debt. It was not loving. It was not remorseful. It did not repair the years of gossip or return the money. But it replaced their story with a fact they could no longer bend. Public lies do not deserve private corrections. I did not ruin my family. I just stopped funding the lie that held it together. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See See you in the upcoming stories.